starting with a lot of knowledge, but then you discovered that you didn't have enough knowledge and you had to continue to learn. And you got 19 customers. Were they telling you a lot of the same things to guide you, or were they very disparate and different?
So, some of them, almost by virtue of their culture, were really focused on what I would call the back end of the tool.
Yeah.
So capabilities, mathematical accuracies, all this kind of stuff, right? Other ones just kind of assumed correctly that we had that part of it under control.
Yeah.
And so they were really focused on user experience.
Yeah.
They had absolutely no problem telling us, okay, I see what you're showing me, and I have no effing clue what this is and what I'm supposed to do with it.
Right.
Right. And it's okay to always to have a situation where something has to be onboarded or explained in some way.
Yeah.
It can't be that opaque from first glance.
Yep.
They have to be able to have some level of connection and orientation to whatever it is you're showing them. If you get an answer like we got a long time ago, right, you know that you are not even remotely in the right area, right? You're not meeting them at all where they are. Now, their data scientists would look at it and go, what's your problem? I totally understand this, right? Yeah. So the breakthrough actually for us, because we really struggled on this a lot, because everybody kind of had a slightly different version of what they thought a proper UX was.
Yeah.
And so obviously that doesn't really scale. But one of our early customers was a large retailer who was feeding hourly data into Proof. And when that started happening, they were kind of late in the game, so to speak, right? So so all of a sudden when they started doing that, we saw on our screens the models recomputing at that frequency, right? It was just like a GPS. It was literally like watching the GPS on your phone, right? And we were like, oh my God, that's it, right? Because if you think about it, almost every question in life, certainly in business, is a navigation question, either literally or metaphorically.
How do I get from A to B? Yep.
Where am I? Where do I need to go? How am I going to get there? What's changing around me to make me change in response, right? And so that's where we went with it. And then we did a batch of, well, we showed it to all of them, and we showed it to some net new people, right? And everybody went, oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's exactly it, right?
Yep.
And the fact that it was also interactive, where they could war game changes, and they could say, for example, right there on the screen, live in whatever meeting, you can say, if you were to invest another $10 million in marketing, and we were to distribute it in the same way that we're currently distributing what we are spending, this is what it would look like.
Yep.
Or you can change the mix right there, right? And that's what that would look like. And so all of a sudden, people were having real business decisions about marketing, as opposed to marketing decisions about marketing.
Yeah. So instead of guessing, you had the data to support decision making.
Yeah, even more than the data, it was the relationships between the data.
Yeah.
That was what it really was.
Yeah.
And the fact that people could see it evolving live in front of them also gave them a lot of confidence. And then the other thing I'll point out about the GPS on your phone is that it was probably right around 2012, 2013. GPS providers started including the countdown to arrival, the ETA and the countdown, right?
Yeah.
And nothing made a bigger difference in confidence, people's confidence in the GPS than that.
Yeah.
Because when you turn into the parking lot in front of the restaurant and the ETA goes to 0 and it's exactly when they said you'd arrive, right? You go, okay, this machine knows its stuff. I can count on it, right?
Yeah.
And that made it, that we do the same thing. That made a big difference.